and I write a lot about films, it's almost become like a part of life for me, because we all watch films for entertainment, right? And but when you watch it critically, most of the times you're called a killjoy. Because people just want to have a good time. Nobody cares about what kind of jokes they're making, whether it's problematic or not, or whether it's insulting to someone, whether it's degrading. We don't want to take accountability. The society mostly is very resistant to taking accountability, and this is also one of the things. So when you're stepping into a workplace, or whenever you're asking these questions, no matter what the sphere is, you will be called a killjoy. I think you will be called a troublemaker, you will be called difficult. All these terms that I don't think men will be hearing as often as women do. So it becomes a necessity to own these labels, because once you own it, then they can't use it to hurt you, right? Or they can't use it to restrict you or put you under one particular box or one particular label, and which I think is very important. And especially in terms of journalism, or when it comes to being in the public sphere, where if you're going to put out work there, when you're having opinions, when you're having questions, whenever you're disturbing the status quo, you will be called a lot more. And I think it's not, especially when someone steps into the industry, I think I would have liked someone to tell me this, prepare me for it when I actually faced it. Because as journalists, I'm sure a lot of the much more senior, much more renowned journalists have also spoken about it. But if you're going to step into the public sphere, it is very difficult in terms of facing. You will be targeted, for what you write. You will be bullied for what you write. You might say the absolute right thing. You will have your work done. You will put your sources. You will have everything that you need in that paper, and yet you will have it. And so you're basically just doing your job. And if a man had written that, nobody is going to target him the way that you are being targeted, right? So I think, especially as students who are stepping into the if you especially want to step into media, it's a great place to be in. You will do a lot of great work, you will have a lot of opportunities, you will have experiences of all kinds, all throughout the spectrum. But it will be difficult. And I'm saying this not to sort of scare you off, or not to make you feel a bit, okay, this is actually the path that I want to take. That's not the idea here. But it is always nice to know what you're getting into, to be prepared, and to be a bit more equipped for what you're about to handle, because otherwise you're just going in blind, and that's not a great thing anywhere. And also I would like to invite you, at least after this particular probably interaction, to look at films a bit differently. And not just films, memes, reels, all sorts of social media content, because they're not just content. They're actually not just content. And you will be creating those in the future. As content writers, as script writers, as journalists, you will be creating content. Even though it feels very, oh my god, no, I'm not creating content, I'm a writer, no, I'm a journalist. No, you will end up, no matter how fancy these labels are, at the end of the day, we're all content creators. And unless we see that critically, unless we see, like for example, I saw this reel the other day, which had like probably 1 million views or something, where a woman is, making a domestic violence PSA of sorts, where she's saying, this is the sign for domestic violence. If you're not able to talk it out, you're in a public space, you need help, please do this and all that. And there's this husband behind who's just looking at her as if like, oh my god, look at the double standards. Okay, and he's doing this very comically. And this woman is like turns back and says, what are you doing? And he's like, he just stops for a bit, and once she turns back again, and he does it again. Okay, and this happens like 4 times, and she gets pissed off, and she'll be like, okay, stop doing it, and she runs towards him to actually like stop him or something. And this was supposed to be a joke. This entire thing was supposed to be a joke. And I'm like, how is this a joke? Why like there's a need to be a certain there's need to assume certain responsibility when you're making content, for about certain aspects, certain issues, because they're very sensitive, because of, rightly so, because they've created a lot of trauma and they're still very, very, very alive. And to make very insensitive jokes out of it, where the entire purpose of what you're doing is lost, how's that right in any way? Like, for example, there was this film that was a blockbuster recently, Love Today. I'm not sure. Have you all seen it? Like, who all found that film problematic? Okay, which is like what, 10 people in a crowd of 30? Yeah, that's just 1/3 people. You can see the number. See, I'm not trying to, as I said, the minute you say, hey, this joke is problematic, the minute you say, hey, you're being insensitive, you're being rude, you're being, you're basically being a boomer, And I'm not saying that, there are ways you can say, use that word in a nice way, but this time I'm not using it that way. But the point is that when you try to ask these questions, you will immediately face with resistance. There are so many ways that, like even for Love Today, people just want to see it as a film. But they don't realize how it's actually seeping into our own fabric of, how you see love or how you see relationships in the first place. And why all the onus for purity, sanctity, honor, culture, why is it always placed on the woman? And why is it that men get a lot more rope to make mistakes than we do? And I think that's something that we also have to personally introspect, because I think we're also very hard on ourselves as women. And again, because these are all things that connect to all the sub-themes that is there in the symposium. Because when you step into work, there are places you will fail. There are places you will, struggle, where you will have to ask for help. And I think we have a problem with all of this inbuilt, because we're trained to be a certain, we're trained to be the providers, we're trained to put our needs back, we're trained to just do what we're told, no matter what we feel about it. And it's very, very crucial for us to unlearn all of this, unlearn all of the conditioning that we've faced, we've learned, and have a much more objective view of what we really need and what is really happening, and claim that space, like really claim that space, not because someone else is giving it to you. It's your space. Why should someone else give it to you? You're there. Just use it. And that's something that they'll make you feel. Like there will be times that, oh, you're a woman, that's why you're getting this, or you're writing this popular because so many kinds of comments that you face. But it's very important to have a filter through, and also to have a filter through what you consume and what you think. So I just wanted to, because I think it's very personal or very important for me, because I've been on this journey for what I think as long as I remember, where I started questioning every single thing and really understanding why I need it, or why it's being given to me. And once I started doing that, it's a very taxing process, I'm not going to lie, because it's easier to just follow rules, right? But once you do that, once you realize what you actually want, what you actually can do, once you realize your own potential, nobody else can stop you from doing whatever you want. And that can be anything. That can be being a successful, ambitious, professional corporate woman, it can be a writer, it can be a homemaker. No matter what you decide to do, once you realize that, okay, this is what I want to do and I want to do it for these reasons, then no matter what the society tries to say, no matter what your family tries to say, no matter what your friends try to say, all of that will not matter, and it will always push you in the right step forward. And that's something I just want to invite you all to just question. That's just one thing that I specifically wanted to say. No matter what it is, just see it through that lens. Question it. Why is this a certain way? Try to understand the reasons behind, and it will put you on a path of immense discovery. Trust me, it's genuinely worth it. I'm not going to take more time. time. So if there are any questions for me that I can specifically answer, I think I'll be happy. Okay. I've been doing this for quite some time now, and it was not something that I planned on doing. I wanted to be a journalist, but I never thought I would end up writing about films. And it just happened to be an happy marriage of two things I really loved, films and writing. But the journey so far has been very interesting because it's both films and film journalism is a very male-dominated space, right? And I end up being the lone woman in a lot of roles, and that is something that I had to get used to, and hopefully make space for more women to join me there. But it's very interesting because whenever I write about what I see or what I consume, it naturally comes from a certain lens, right? Because that's how I look at it. But how it's been called is that the woman perspective or the feminist perspective. I'm like, no, that's just my perspective, right? Because see, we're 30 in this room, all of us are women, some of us could be feminists, and if I have a certain reading of a certain film or a certain issue or a certain topic, the other person will have a completely different reading of it, and that's absolutely okay, right? And but there's this habit of putting a label on it and saying woman's perspective. It's not just issues; it's women issues. They are human issues. You don't say that to a man who's having a problem. Right? You have a man's problem. We don't say that. But whenever it's a woman's problem, it becomes a very hush-hush thing. You're not supposed to talk about it, or it always comes with that label where it's your problem, not mine. That's the attitude that comes. So it's been very interesting, navigating through all that and finding a way to successfully tackle it, and still be able to put my opinion out there and be respectful about it. And as journalists, I think that's also one more, or to be journalists, to be writers, to be content creators, I think it's very important to be respectful and very, very important to be mindful of whatever we're putting out there. It's very easy because you're all going to be on social media. I think when it comes to any sorts of writing, no matter which sphere it exists, we're all going to be on Twitter and Instagram because that's how you're going to build your audience, apart from what you do. And when you're there, when it's very tempting to be very rude or tempting to be very snarky, because that's what gets you views, right? That's what gets you popular, and that's what cuts through the clutter actually, in terms of numbers. And but in the long run, I think it's very important to have that grounding, have that ethic in you when you do start whatever it is, because that's what's helped me, to be very honest. And I'm at a certain place right now where I manage to do certain things because I still do it. I mean, I'm very conscious about it. No matter how bad it is, no matter how good it is, it's very important to have that grounding, have that ethic, be balanced, and be honest. It doesn't mean that you don't have to lie about something. You can ask hard questions. You can do it politely. You can be respectful. That's something that is, I think I learned thankfully at the very beginning of my career, and that's something that's helped me a lot. So yeah, I hope that gave you a perspective of what I've been through. So yeah. Anyone else? Guys, அவ்வளோ ஃபார்முலாலாம் இருக்கணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. இங்கிலீஷ் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ங்கிறதுனால நான் இங்கிலீஷில் பேசுகிறேன். Otherwise, please be chill. Feel free to ask anything. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
We talked about love today, right?
Yeah.
It's a very trending thing. It reached a lot of audience. Yet it also has a way, as you said, it has a lot of cognitive views. It has a lot of how the person was represented.
Yeah.
So when such a film being like this, how hard as a journalist or social responsibility or wanted how hard it is to voice out the thing that you have, because it's a very popular film.
Yeah.
And a lot of நிறைய விமனுக்கு வந்து அவங்களுக்கே வந்து தெரியாது இந்த மாதிரி வந்து போர்ட்ரே பண்றாங்க. So how hard it is for you to like இல்ல இது வந்து இப்படி நடக்குது அப்படினு சொல்லி சோஷியல் ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டியா நிறைய கிரியேட்டர்ஸ் இருக்குது இல்ல. சோ அப்படி ஒரு பாயிண்ட் நீங்க கொண்டு வரும்போது எப்படி எவ்வளவு ரீச் ஆகும்?
No, actually, thank you for asking that first, because I don't think a lot of people understand that there's a struggle in putting that opinion forward in the first place. Because the film is so popular, because it has a certain following, because it's reached so many people. When I know I'm going to put this out, I know I'm going to be targeted. I know I'm going to be bullied, which I did have, like it did happen, because and it's not really a pleasant thing to go through. I mean, you can brush it off as much as you want. You can say, yeah, trolls only, I don't care, they can say whatever you want and all that. But it will hurt you. I mean, it will affect you a bit. And you will need that, okay, it may start with say half an hour at start, but eventually reduce to like 10 seconds when you like, okay, let's move on. But it still takes that 10 seconds to get through that, and I think not just as a public personality, even as just women, we all have, our space is never respected, right? No matter whether it's our online space or our offline space. People just think they can come in and get out whenever they want. They don't think twice about sending a very disgusting DM. I'm going to be very honest here. That's our space. Our inbox is our space, but nobody thinks twice about coming in. It is hard. It is very very difficult in a lot of cases. I remember காத்து வாக்குல ரெண்டு காதல்னு ஒரு படம் வந்துச்சு, and there was also another film that I absolutely trashed. I think before Love Today, it was the most angry I had been at the theaters, because it was just absolutely infuriating to see two superstars fight over a man as if there are no men in the rest of the universe, not just India, rest of the universe. And even for putting that out, I was targeted, I was bullied, I was harassed, online, thankfully. Just the fact that I'm saying thankfully there, says a lot about how we've been normalized to certain experiences. But yeah, it is very hard, which is why I said that, when you're going to be in the public sphere, it will be hard. It will be difficult, but when there's a certain satisfaction or high, or certain joy, when you put out there. I've also received a lot of messages who told me that, your post made me think. And not just from men, from women as well. You know what, I've not seen this from a certain angle so far. And now that you've told me this, I think I'll start to see more on that angle. And those messages mean the world to me, because that's why I do what I really do. And it's not just one way. There have been a lot of times where people have, opened doors for me in terms of perspective, in terms of thinking, in terms of, issues that I've not really understood the gravity of. So I think that exchange of perspectives, information, emotion, and I think there's just so much love for it as well, amidst all the hate, amidst all the bullying and all that, you do get a lot of love as well. From people who really try to see why you're doing what you're doing. And that's a community that you don't want to miss. It makes you really, it makes work fulfilling, right? And that's something that we all somehow aspire to have in our professional careers, that we want to be happy doing whatever we do. So I think that's what's helped me get through the difficult times or the more unpleasant experiences. Anyone else?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
you said film industry is all about men. What are your struggles while entering into the industry?
Okay. See, film industry in general involves a lot of struggle, and it's even more hard. It's harder for a woman to break through because of a lot of reasons. First of all, the structure itself is very flexible. It's not very concrete. Like, they'll have meetings at 3 a.m. in the morning or 11-12 p.m. in the night, and a lot of these A lot of the bonding between people happens in bars or pubs or clubs. I'm not saying that women can't go to these places, but we have our restrictions, right? I mean, we have to keep looking out for our safety. No matter what profession we are in, or no matter how liberal and progressive we are, right? So even if you're uh, at a meeting at 3 a.m. in the night, you will be worrying how you're going to go back. They're not going. Men don't have that. They don't have that anxiety. They don't have that worry. Your family will be worried while you are. And they will constantly keep asking you, no, is this really what you want? It's so difficult. Why do you have to do this? But thankfully my family was supportive, so I didn't have that struggle. But I know a lot of people who did. So it's and also making the connections, making those networks, just trying to, and because you're coming from a certain angle, you're coming from a certain perspective, and you're a feminist and you say certain things, you don't take certain things, you are again, it's even more difficult to have these connections, because you will be turned difficult, because you don't take what they just give you. So it's a lot of all that, and it's also because writing films are a lot about creating. It's a very personal journey, and especially as a writer, when you're collaborating with someone else, it's very hard to find the middle point where they might come from a certain perspective which is problematic, or which is not really what you would want to propagate, or just put it on even your resume, but it will be there. So we will have to look at ways to tell that, but in a way that doesn't make them very defensive. And I think the biggest challenge for women in this industry would be to handle egos. Because you're asking questions, right? You're coming from a place of power. That's what a question gives you, power, right? To break through the other person's assumed world vision. And not a lot of people are comfortable with it. So I think that would be the biggest challenge, people will be intimidated, people will be uncomfortable with it. And that will make you even more, that will make you second guess a lot more than you actually do. But once you own that, it becomes the best thing you can have. I think that's the biggest challenge that I think women will face. Yeah. Anybody else?
Is there anything which inspired you to choose these fields?
Not really. I mean, I've always wanted to be a journalist, and I think that was more because I wanted to write for a living. I just liked writing. I wanted to write for a living. Seri sensible yosikkalam, mass sambalika kedaikum. Okay, let's become a journalist. That's basically what I did. But I think after stepping into the industry, there's been just so much I've learned, so much I've seen, so much I've witnessed. Like, for example, there was a story I had to do with trans women, and I will never forget this. We were talking about happy experiences that she had, and so she was saying, and we were generally talking about films. She's a huge Surya fan, and she told me that ஒரு நாள் ஒரு வாட்டி வந்து சூர்யா படம் பார்க்கறதுக்காக போயிருந்தோம் தேவி தியேட்டர்ல. And we had booked tickets and everything. We wanted to go. We were like 3-4 people. We went in, and the film started rolling. These guys were just they were just sitting and watching. There was a family next to them, which came a few minutes late. They sat, they sat for the film, looked at these women, visibly uncomfortable with it, and after like 20 minutes, they just left. They left the theatre. And there was just tears in her eyes when she told me this story, and I just felt so bad, like it's something very simple, watching a film. Even that memory or that experience wasn't completely happy for her. It was it was tainted with trauma, it was tainted with pain, it was tainted with grief. And I think I wouldn't have had the opportunity to speak to these people or witness life in different social strata, across, and have the opportunity to interact with people from across ages of life, and across geography, across demographics. I think that's what keeps me going. So I might have come in with very, very little expectations of what journalism is or what writing is. But once you come in, once you get that, it's genuinely a high. I mean, you will understand when you're part of a newsroom. There's a certain excitement, that adrenaline that hits you once you put your first story out, or once you get your first byline, which is when you publish your first article. It's those experiences, I think, that just kept me going. There will be a lot of very boring, dull stuff as well, especially when you're starting out. But I think once you cross all that, the good stuff does come in. Yeah.
What is feminism according to you?
Oh wow. It's a lecture I think feminism is equality. Not actually equality, equity. Where I'm not being treated differently because of my gender, my sexuality, and my identity. That's it. I know feminism, this is also one of my pet peeves, especially with films, because they have this habit of making feminism everything that it is not, right? Feminist na pudikno, feminist na short hair vechukno, feminist na jeans na podno, bold bullet odno. Oh my god, the amount of times that I've seen bold women drive bullets. Bold women, TS50 odna bold irukka matangala, you see your mom, you see your grandmother, you see your aunts, you see so many people in that generation who are extremely fierce because they've had to fight for where they are. Be extremely bold, extremely spoken, extremely, to the point. But yet, feminist what's the image that comes to your mind?
A bold female.
Image. How does that woman look?
Westernized. More western.
Yeah. So, I think, which is why I started my, interaction with the need to question. I think that's a very important question. Because, for me, in the larger construct, feminism is just that. It's just about treating people equally. No matter what their gender is, no matter what their sexuality is, no matter what their identity is. It is feminism because we've been suppressed, we've been how do I even put it? It's called feminism because we're the second gender. We're taught that we're the second gender and not the first gender. And it's like, so when someone says, why is it called equality? Why is why call it feminism? Call it equality or call it humanity. No. When people, it's like how Black Lives Matter came into picture, right? It's because black community is facing severe racism, severe systemical issues. Appo neenga what white men face issues also. So now it's just, the point is just to take away the spotlight from that area. So feminism is just that. It's just about treating people equally, just about seeing things. Why are there different rules for different genders, for different identities? I think that's just feminism. And when it clubs with other social economic stratas like caste or class, becomes intersectional feminism. That's it. It's very simple. But there's a very especially with the society we're in, there's a high population of everything. Like they make you think that feminism is everything. It's not. It is not. So there's a need for you to keep questioning. This is again why I keep coming back to it. If someone says, "Oh, feminist na ipda irupanga, feminist da irupanga," then please question. Why is that? The actual definition is only this. So why do you have this, thought in your mind? Why do you have this picture? Why do you have this, stereotype? So it all comes down to that. No matter whether it's someone else or to us. Even if you will find your own definition of feminism the more you explore. The more you read, the more you think. Why the boundaries that you draw for yourself, it'll be a very personal experience. But it'll all come under feminism. I hope I answered your question. It's actually a very insightful and long question. So I tried to sort of answer it as shortly as possible. Anyone else? Yeah.
Movies are a form of entertainment. Then why did you say at the first that you have to see movies in a difficult way?
Because even entertainment, it's also a form of influence. You can have fun. It's absolutely fine. But if you're going to be if your life is being, your rules are being set because of what's happening on screen, then I think there's a need for us to be critical about it. Yeah. And I think entertainment பார்க்கறதே வந்து ஒரு luxury தான் நினைக்கிறேன். Because mostly it comes from a place where when you're not part of the problem, when you're not part of the joke, when you're not the butt of the joke, then you can say entertainment as entertainment. But when you can see that this is clearly problematic, when you can see that like for example, entertainment is entertainment now, but why do all women are bad drivers? Why is that stereotype being propagated? Or why are all women very dramatic? Why do women have no roles? I mean, for example, you're saying entertainment. Yeah. Don't you want to see someone like you on screen? Someone that you can relate to. How often has it been? Is there, like, can you think of a movie in recent times where you can say, oh, okay, actually, and the phone namla marda irka. No, she's actually living the life that we are doing. She's doing the stuff that we are doing. Can we say that? Do we even have the opportunity to say that? So it's entertainment for the male gaze, which we are just forced to accept. It's not entertainment for us. Yeah, all those wife jokes or all those body shaming jokes, we've never been comfortable with it. We have just normalized it. I'm sure. I mean, no matter how hard we laugh, there will be some corner of your mind that will question yourself when you pick a dress in the trial shops. Now, I know that the struggle we all have in trial rooms. That mirror is probably, I think I've cursed that mirror like so many times, million times, for not looking the way that I'm supposed to look. But then I realized, no, why should I do that? I have a perfectly healthy body, which allows me to do everything that I want. I can work towards being healthy. But why do you have to fit that certain structure, or why do you have to fit that box? And entertainment propagates that box, which is why there is a need for us to constantly question why that box exists. And yeah, I think I answered that. Did I answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you so much for having me here. I hope I offered some perspective or some insight to you that if you carry it forward, I will be very happy. But at least if it opens a door or just sparks a question in you, I think that's my job here. So thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and once again, thanks a lot.
Lots of personal examples of general introspection. Thank you so much for such an insight, ma'am. We'll definitely start questioning. Your presence made this day a memorable day. Thank you for inspiring, for encouraging, for being here, and most importantly, for giving your time and making your presence. Thank you, ma'am. The conference will happen in 2 sessions via Google Meet. I request everyone to join the respective link shared in WhatsApp. On behalf of our department, I thank Ashamira ma'am for joining us today. And I thank everyone who supported directly or indirectly towards this conference. Thank you.